First question, Rose. Yes. If you were stuck in Home Depot, what would you build?
What an excellent question, Father. Probably a bed frame so I could take a nap and wait for someone to get me.
That's really smart.
Good.
All right.
That's beautiful.
All right, Athena. If you could be in the movie of your choice, what movie would you choose and what character would you play?
Whoa.
That's hilarious because I was going to ask this question.
It's a good one.
Movie of my choice. So I think that I would choose Freaky Friday.
Oh, gosh.
And I think
That's a good one.
Who
I
would
would
you
be
be?
the mom because I think it would be really funny to experience high school at a different time, and figure that out. And
That's true.
the daughter's completely different than the mom. So to go through that, I don't know.
All right.
That's what I'd choose. All right. Let's see here, Father. If you could meet any historical figure, who would you choose and why?
Oh, geez. All right. Beside the obvious being Jesus, I would go with Abraham Lincoln, and I would ask him how he was able to write the Gettysburg Address, because that was just amazing. Talk about pithy short to the spot. 264 words.
That's
love
twice.
it.
We need to start
And
making
it
an
was
account.
amazing. And his second inaugural, which was just awesome. He's a true wordsmith. Yeah.
I feel like Father's fangirling right now.
For Abraham Lincoln.
Lauren,
Yeah.
if you were an instrument, what would you be?
An instrument. I think a violin. I think they just sound really nice. There's
Really elegant.
yeah,
That's true. That's true.
yeah. I would say violin.
Okay, Athena, if you were a tool, not saying that you are, but if you were, what tool would you be?
Ooh, I think a jackhammer. I think if you asked my husband, he'd say the same thing. Because I sometimes I just jump off the wall. I'm a little crazy.
That's great. Hit it.
Just came to me.
Welcome back to Quarantine. My name is Lauren.
I'm Father David Kidd.
I'm Athena, and today we have a special guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Rose. I am a senior in high school and currently studying at Bowling Green State University.
Wow. Awesome.
Rose.
Thanks, Rose. Crushing that.
Rose, will you tell us about our sponsors today?
Yeah, if you like what we're doing here, come visit us at Awaken Nation, awakencatholic.org/donate. And if you have a problem like meditating, like I do, staying silent in prayer, come over to the app Hallow. At hallow.app/awaken, a Catholic meditation app to help you find peace and grow in your spiritual journey.
You knocked it out of the park.
Yeah,
So
good
good.
job, Rose.
So
Thanks,
good.
Rose.
So, Lauren, what are we talking about today?
We are talking about forgiveness. Bam.
Wow.
This one's
That was
tough.
heavy.
Forgiveness is tough. We all know that. Easier said than done, for sure.
Yeah. So I think first we should talk about God's forgiveness. And we've talked about confession a little bit before. But we need to keep in mind as we live this life and we make all our mistakes that God always forgives. Always.
Right.
And I think the Holy Father, Pope Francis, has a great quote on this, and I think I shared this previously, but, he said, we often get tired of asking for God's forgiveness, but he never gets tired of asking or actually giving it, right? Giving us forgiveness. We can be kind of fed up with our sin and tired of saying the same things over and over again, or we do an examination of conscience, we're like, gosh, it's the same sins pointing over and over and over again. But in reality, when we come to the Lord and ask him for forgiveness through the great sacrament of reconciliation, we know our Lord wants to forgive us each and every time. But it's that having that contrite heart.
Yeah, and asking the Lord for forgiveness is the first step in forgiving yourself, too.
Yeah.
That's a huge first step.
And that's the hardest part of forgiveness, I think.
Yeah, forgiveness also brings a great sense of peace, So to gain that peace, asking God for his forgiveness is it's amazing what it can do for you, really.
Yeah.
It's hard though, right? When it's when it's with a flesh and blood human being right next to you, right? And they've hurt you before and then they hurt you again. and then they hurt you again, right? And you're like, gosh, how many times did Jesus say to forgive? 77 times? You know, like, wow, okay, 3 down, 74 to go, right?
So hard.
Yeah.
It's so hard. And I think especially in high school, because I feel like, at least as a female, when it's another like lady that you're in school with, or especially if it's a close friend, like high school is hard. So you're like sharing your feelings with that person, like, and they know everything about you. And then so when they do something that hurts you, it is so hard to be like, it's okay. Like, let's try again. Like, it is. It's really hard to be, you know, even going through like all of the steps and like talking it out and saying sorry and accepting that forgiveness. It's still hard to be like, let's be friends again. I don't know. That's a struggle.
Especially when you're in high school, friends come and go, relationships come and go, and you can't let one thing define you or define how you think of other people and how you view other relationships either.
And we may be upset and hurt by what others have done to us, and we have difficulty forgiving. But if we're honest with ourselves, we make mistakes too, probably like all the time, and need their forgiveness
Every day.
too.
Yeah. Every day. And I think probably the hardest part of forgiveness for me is like actually like I'll go to confession and, you know, be forgiven and it feels great. And then when I get home, it's normally like right when I walk out of church, I realize like I haven't actually forgiven myself. So like then, even though God's forgiven me and that's wonderful and fantastic, I don't totally feel the grace because I like dwell in it. I don't know about you guys, but I like dwell. I'm like, I made this horrible mistake. This is it actually happened this past week to me that like, I forgot to do something and like I dwelled in it and like still it's really hard for me to be like, it's okay. It's okay. We're not perfect. I have to forgive myself. Like it's difficult.
Right. And one of the things about God's forgiveness, right? Like when we talk about the beauty of God's forgiveness is sometimes we confess our sins and we want like some really hard penance, like just hit me over the head and give me like a million roses due because I'm just like, I'm not worth any of that.
Yeah.
And God says, but I love you anyway. Right? Like, and I forgive you. And that's the gift of the grace is we don't merit it, right? We don't deserve it. And he gives it to us anyway. And I think that's what's so like difficult to take on, right? It's like, give me this gift. I don't even deserve this gift. And you're like, you're right. You don't, but I give it to you anyway. And that's God's forgiveness, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's good to remember too about the God's forgiveness thing is acting as God would to other people is being willing to forgive someone else, you know, 77 times and just have that like love for other people, even if those people hurt you. And it really is being called to be the stronger one in the situation to say, hey, I'm going to forgive you and I am going to continue to love you. Even if that means I have to love you from a distance now, I will still love you.
Which is so important. Thank you for bringing that up. That just because you forgive someone doesn't mean things have to go exactly how they were before. So if you have a friendship that you are super hurt from and you've forgiven the person, that is absolutely beautiful. But that does not mean that that person now has to be sleeping at your house every weekend like they used to. I think that loving from a distance is so important because Christ isn't asking us to forgive others and then like kind of set ourselves up to be hurt again, right? And he's not asking us to be stupid in that. Like there's that saying that you can forgive, but you don't forget. And that's important. You need to remember that there are times that like you'll forgive someone and that doesn't mean that like now everything's hunky dory and you're going to be best friends again. Yeah. But it does mean that you're still called to love that person.
And that means there's changes that have to take place in that relationship, right? And just, all right, it's like things can't keep going the way they are. Something's got to change, right? And if we're honest with ourselves, it's probably both of us, right, that need to make that change.
Yeah.
And I think, when you start to forgive yourself, it's so much easier to forgive others in that sense because you have more peace in you. And something that I found effective, when forgiving others is actually saying out loud that you forgive them. Like
people don't do that.
No, like actually saying, you're in a tense conversation and you say, you know what, I forgive you. And that's not to say that you automatically forgive them. You're over it. Like you can still be mad. You can still be frustrated. Like you can still have those emotions, but actually like giving power over those emotions and saying it out loud, I forgive you, is so much more powerful than.
That's a great point. Yeah. That's a great point, Lauren. Because you think like even like someone will like text me and let's say, oh, I'm sorry, messed that up, Yeah. And And for me, I have to say, apology accepted. Right. And I was like, boy, that's not too many letters I have to type in there.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I had to really think that through and like process it and then make a decision.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to text that. Do I really mean it? As I do.
Well, and that's something I didn't learn till I was married. Like, I remember having like my first years of marriage, like having these intense conversations with my husband. And when he would apologize, he'd be like, it's okay. It's okay. Cause that was like what I said to everybody. And like, he would sit there and be like, no, you have to say you forgive me. And I was like, I did. I said, it's okay. And he's like, that's not the same thing. So that's not the same thing to somebody. So it's just saying like, it's okay. Or like, no big deal. Like, that's not the same as saying like, like, I forgive you. Like, I went to say it now. Like, I forgive you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that matters.
Because we can easily fall into this like passive aggressive approach, right? It's just like, oh, everything's fine, no worries, and then like we're like keeping score, right? Like, oh no, that was the last straw, actually. But no worries.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's so important to let go of these grudges too, because if you keep them and you don't forgive people, you don't fully sit with it and, look interiorly and forgive yourself and then forgive others. Like, it's just going to eat at you for a long time, and it's going to affect everything else that you do and affect other relationships down the road, because that one relationship that you had in high school or that one from friendship, whatever. And then, 5 years later you're with someone and it's just, you have to learn to.
Yeah. Forgiveness is definitely like a choice, and, to choose again and again, like, I'm going to keep loving this person. I'm going to keep my forgiveness with them and giving those emotions to God and trusting that God will take care of those emotions. Because I know I've been in this situation before where like I'm having a hard time with someone and I'm like, God, I forgive them. But like, you're not doing anything about it. Like, come on. Like, yeah. So just trusting that God will work it out, because he always does and he always has. Is really important to remember too, I think, when forgiving someone.
And our culture kind of reflects how difficult it is to forgive, right? I can't think of any number one albums that start with forgive or forgiveness, right? It's like, it is really
true.
hard.
No, it's true.
And it definitely doesn't sell, right? Because it's like, oh, no, it's their fault. They're to blame.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, like that's actually what we're called to be faithful Catholics and faithful Christians, is that we're called to forgive. And that starts with accepting God's forgiveness.
And I think like at least for me, one of the hardest places to start with forgiveness is with those that you are closest with. Like, it's easier when a friend hurts you. It's easier, I think, to be like, oh, it's okay, I forgive you. Like, we can move on. But like when it's a sibling, right? Or it's a parent, it's really easy to be like, I'm going to hold on to that. And next time when I do something that's not as bad, I'm going to be like, well, do you remember that one time that you did this?
Hold
right.
grudges.
Which is not forgiveness.
That one time at band camp,
3 years ago.
3 years ago, it was August.
Never forget.
But
14th,
for real,
right before the Assumption of Mary. And you did that.
I think though that it really is hard. Like, when it's inside your home, that is the best place to start with forgiveness, but it is the hardest place. But if you can love well at home, and forgiveness is a huge part of loving well, if you can love well at home, it makes it easier then to love well outside of your home.
And I'm telling you, you're going to need your relationships with your siblings down the line.
Yeah.
Like, in your family. Like, it's just so important to have that structure now and like focus on forgiving them in your home.
Yeah. I've learned time and time again, friends, they can come and go, but families like stuck there forever. So gotta live to love them.
Yeah. And Rose, can you tell us how many siblings you have?
I have 7 siblings, 5 older brothers, 1 older sister, and 1 younger sister.
That's awesome.
I've been very blessed. We all get along very well. They're
I was going to say, so like the Montian family, I have to say, like, I don't know what Mama Montian is doing.
She's a saint.
Seriously. But she, like, if I ever have daughters, I need to call up Mrs. Montian and be like, okay, what did you do? Because I have seen, even like times where I know I, as a sister, would have been like, oh my gosh, what the heck? I'm done. I've seen these guys, like, I don't know, just love each other so well and check in on each other. And for me, that's what makes, like, in ministry, it's really easy to tell someone to go talk to the Montian sisters. Like, so if someone's new, it's really easy for me to be like, you need to connect with Rose because she's really awesome, because I see how well she loves her sisters. And I've been blessed. I had Montians in youth group when I was in youth group.
You went with Joe, right?
I went with Joe. Luke was in there for a little bit. I had a little bit of all of them, actually.
So fun.
But so like to see, which is funny because like the brothers are a different breed than the sisters. They're all beautiful, but it's so funny. So, but I got to be with them, and then to now have this. I've had all three sisters, these younger ones, in ministry, and to see how different they all are, because they all are like completely different, but how they love each other in their different ways. And just the forgiveness that's in that family, like you can see it. I think that's so huge.
That's a huge compliment. Thank you.
I think I'm flattered. But for real, like it's really cool. So I think this was a perfect topic for Rose to join us today.
Yeah. And just kind of like an ending note, I would say the verse just came to me, like, love one another as God has loved you. And I, just put in forgiveness in there. Forgive one another as God forgives you.
Yeah.
Ooh,
That's awesome.
Good.
That's so good. Holy moly. That's a great way to like, there you go. Rose, will you tell us about our sponsors one more time?
Oh, yeah. So if you like what we're doing here and want to support us, please visit us at awakencatholic.org/donate. And if you have problems meditating like I do when praying again, come to Hallow, a Catholic meditation app that helps you find peace and grow in your spiritual journey at holloway.app/awaken.
Perfect.
Sweet. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, guys, for tuning in.
Check you later.
This show and all media on Awaken Catholic is made possible by the Awaken Nation and the Hallow app. The Awaken Nation is a community of people like you who support all things Awaken for as cheap as a cup of coffee a week and get access to exclusive content. Learn more by visiting awakencatholic.org/donate. Hallow is the only audio-guided Catholic prayer app focused on contemplative prayer and traditional Catholic meditation such as Lectio Divina, Daily Examen, and the Rosary. We here at Awaken all use Hallow every day and love it. To learn more or give it a try, visit hallow.app/awaken.